Okay, so another question, is Seymour insane, really? Because they say that Seymour may completely lose control of himself, that's what they say. And in fact, there is some point where we think that Seymour is not insane, is the sanest of them. But when he kisses the little girl's foot, we feel something strange. We think that there is some sexual suggestiveness in the text. And in fact, when you see there are lots of sex, there's a magazine article that Muriel is reading is called "Sex is Fun or Hell." Also, there is the reference to Muriel's puberty in the second paragraph. Also, the allusion of Eliot's The Westland. In The Westland is a poem. I have tried to read all of it, but it's too long. It's 450 lines, something like that. So I could not. So I read the resume, and The Westland is a poem where spirituality has degenerated into raw sexuality. And Sibyl, the name of Sibyl, appears in the introduction of Westland. I'll tell you later what Sibyl is. The character of Sibyl recalls the preamble of Eliot's poem. I saw with my own eyes the Sibyl of Kumai hanging in a jar, and when the boys said to her, "Sibyl, what do you want?" she replied, "I want to die." This is the introduction of the poem. I want to die. Okay. So that it's not casual. I mean, Sibyl comes from that. And also, the introduction is in Greek and Latin. It's not in English. So there is also a relation with the fact that Muriel says that Seymour gave her a poem to read, and that she could not read it because it was in German. You know? So it seems that it doesn't matter really, that what matters is the spirituality of the person. And we go where he calls his wife a spiritual trump. You have seen that he calls her, you are the spiritual trump of 1948, in fact. So, he called his wife Miss Spiritual Trump. So we get the information that we are in 1948. That means 3 years after the end of the war. And we can imagine that Seymour has been spending this time recovering from his mental disease. And that it's the first time he's out on a holiday with Muriel. So there is nothing spiritual at all about Muriel, and that's why she's a trump for her husband, who was probably expecting to find some emotional refuge in her, but she happens to be a sexual trump and a spiritual fraud. She says she did not read the poetry book he gave her, and not even tried to find it translated. I mean, she's not really interested in communicating with her husband. When he calls her that she's a spiritual trump, she does not seem to be offended, because she thinks that she's a trump for him, but a sexual one, that she's so attractive that he cannot resist himself. But here again, we have to go to Rilke, the poet. Rilke had a lover who was Louis-André Salomé, who was his friend, his lover, his mother, and a spiritual counselor.
Counselor.
So Rilke spoke a lot about with her, spoke a lot to her, and spoke a lot about reconciliation, and did not make any difference when life was like death. I mean, when life is so difficult to stand, that death is a kind of liberation. In this, we have other references to books like Helen Bannerman, The Little Black Sambo. Little Black Sambo is a story, a children's story, where jealous tigers, 5 or 6 tigers, chasing each other, and in order to get the material things from each other. So, or again, we find the materialistic characters. We find this clue is in one of the 9 stories. And also, in this, the last of the 9 stories, there is a young child who foretells his own death and explains that death is in many ways like waking up. When you get to the end of life, it's like waking up. So when Samuel kills himself, Muriel is asleep. So he is the one who frees himself, liberates himself through death, and Muriel is the one who is not alive because she is asleep. So the most funny thing, in my opinion, is the word bananafish. What's that? Bananafish, what I have found in different places is banana is a phallic symbol. We could have guessed that. And the holes are the feminine sex. So we can understand that Samuel and his wife together are a banana fish. And so when man gets too much involved in sex, they cannot go out, they cannot escape. So this, the title, A Perfect Day for Banana Fish, is 2 reasons. For him, because he's escaping. He's escaping from the hole through the only way to go out, which is death. And for her, because she will be able to go on with her life and to be happy financially and sexually. That's why it's a perfect day for both. And I don't know if you have some questions. I have tried to overlook everything.
No, to give an overview. Overlook is the opposite.
Overview. Overlook is not to look.